Okay, so the way that I've divided these slides, just a little recap, there's some essential stuff, things that I think you all need to prioritize. There's opportunities, things that I think are opportunities for you on the table, but maybe not things that I would put at the very, very top of the list, stuff to do in March, April, May, that sort of thing. I will also say that I have done a lot of these over the years with various teams, some, nonprofit newsrooms, some public media, some for-profit media, all sorts of stuff. You all are free to take this list and say, Dan, we like these ideas, but we think they're in the wrong order. We think X, Y, and Z need to go up higher. These things need to go, these things need to go lower. And that is absolutely fine. These are my suggestions. However, at the end of the day, it's up to you all to take this stuff and go, all right, we have got a lot of ideas on the table. How do we want to prioritize? I'll share these slides after with you all. I have plenty of teams that will take these and they will move stuff around and they'll make notes. I literally just did one of these earlier today with a team where we'd done the growth slides, we'd gone through and I put together a similar sort of presentation for them back in the fall. And they've been making some updates, and we spent the call today literally just going through and be like, we did this, we did this, we did this, we did this, and moving stuff around and be like, all right, based on where we are right now, like these are where our priorities are. And it had shifted from where it was in the fall. That's totally fine. This is yours to play with. I'll go through each of these individually, but there's a few things that I think are worth tackling, the big ticket, high priority, on-site stuff. The first is, in terms of sign-up pages, you have these MailChimp pages. They're fine. I would prefer, however, for you all that we have something that exists on the website. Now that we've done some of the cleanup and reorganization, this should be a little easier to do. There's a few reasons for that. One is you'll have a little bit more control over the look and design. Two is there'll be some search value that you can get from this. Right now, they're on these MailChimp pages that are basically unsearchable. If someone's searching for like New Hampshire public radio newsletters, those pages may not come up. And so we may be able to create a better version of the page. Usually when I work with teams, I throw out a couple options. One is you want to make sure that with this sort of page, there is no one design, there is no one rule for how these need to look. But I do always encourage, and this is part of the reason too, that I think you all can improve on, this existing page. Right now, if someone clicks through, my biggest issue here, besides the search capabilities, the design is, there's no real details about what any of these are and when you would get them or why you might want these. What is the rundown? What is primarily politics? How often will it show up in my inbox? So being able to give a little bit more detail. We have a daily newsletter. Here's when it comes. Here's what you can expect. Doing it for all the different newsletters, telling people a little bit more about why they should make time for this thing in their inbox, maybe even showcasing the product or linking to some sample editions, all things that you can do. When I look at other publishers out there, like it's the team that I work with out on the West Coast, and Yakima and Washington State, and they had a page that looked not too different from what you guys have, and they made some changes. Their changes were around, these images kind of getting a little bit more context for each of these, and a sentence about each of the products. Here's what it is, and here's what you're going to get. It's nice. You can sign up for multiple newsletters at once. There's a little more context. Here's the trace. They cover gun violence in the US. I really like this as an example because you would expect most places would promote their daily newsletter as their primary thing. What they've realized is that for their audience, getting a daily newsletter about gun violence in America is too much. The average person, myself included, simply cannot get that many stories in a week. They will not read, they will not tune in. So they've reprioritized and now push you towards their weekly newsletter. They even have it checked when you come onto the page, which is really nice. So like this is the one we want to nudge you towards. They show you a sample of one of their newsletters. They get a sense of what it is. They have CAPTCHA on this form too to make sure that you're going and you're seeing what the newsletter. So to make sure that spammy signups that might be coming through are being blocked. I'll also mention, I'll show you BUR is a nice example of this. Not a perfect page, but first name, last name. You can sign up for the newsletter. check the boxes, you get a little bit more details about each of these products. And like you all, they have some newsletters that you wouldn't really know what they are if you didn't have a little bit more detail, like what is the artery, what is cognoscenti, like they need a little bit more detail there to really sell you as to why this is valuable. So there's opportunities there to give you a little bit more context, have reCAPTCHA, show the product, help with prioritization. I mentioned search and social. There's also value there in being able to have stuff that if you're sharing on social media, like these examples on the top, your call to action, utilizing the imagery in a really smart way, or for search purposes, Portland Press Herald is a really good example of this. If you're searching for like Portland Daily Newsletter, you're going to get this like sign up for our daily headlines email, and there's that additional bit of context. Sign up, top stories, 5 a.m. Great, I'm getting a little bit more before I sign up for this newsletter, which is really, really useful for people who are searching for specific phrases. Those folks are, there's not going to be tens of thousands of them a year, but there are people who are searching for things, and we might as well get in front of them with a page that says like, hey, this is what we were looking for. It's also worth creating pages for the individual newsletters. There's a few reasons for this. For you all, probably the biggest one is whenever your team is on air, whether it's on podcasts or on terrestrial radio, whether you're doing events, you can say, hey, go sign up for my newsletter. And we can say, sign up for NHPR/politics newsletter, and we'll take you straight to that page. Same kind of deal here. These don't have to be super fancy. It's a good one from a team out in Boulder. They show the product, what you're going to get, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7 a.m. Here's what it looks like. They have a sample call to action. Go sign up. Not super fancy, but enough here that you can go like, all right, I have a sense of what this is. Other stuff that's out there. You all have, it's there in the hamburger menu, but you do have to go find it. You have to do a little extra work to get into that. I would encourage you somewhere on the page to have some sort of header or nav kind of unit. I love how Berkeley Size does this. Donate newsletters, like it's right there at the top of every page. Other newsletters do this in different ways. Something like Time Magazine will just do one promo for one main newsletter. Totally fine. Other sites will make sure that on mobile, it all shrinks down, so there's still something there, and that could be a newsletter icon, it could be a subscribe button, something, because obviously the mobile audience, for you all and for most sites, continues to grow. The footer, another, this is a really easy win for you all. We should have a sign-up box for the rundown. Anyone on any page will see that form. These sorts of things don't get a ton of traffic, but the people who are going to the footer are usually looking for something. So there's no reason not to have a call to action there. And on top of, having an embed for the footer, we can always add something here as well, whether it's in the list of social icons, having a newsletter thing, or a sign up for the newsletters link down here as well. You have this space. People are coming here to try to find something. No reason not to do it. I'll show you one fun example too that I like from in terms of the social icons. Eater Boston does a really good job with this. Twitter, Facebook, newsletter icon. Anywhere they're doing that sort of thing, we can promote newsletters too. A lot of this is just around, all right, we have these different spaces where people might be looking for newsletter signups. We'll create the pages, have something in the header or nav. Let's have something in the footer or two. So we're covered all the places that people might be looking for a newsletter sign up. We have something. The one other thing that's on this list right now, forward to a friend, is definitely something that you all could lean into. I love when sites, this is Jax Today, WJCT in Jacksonville. This is at the bottom of all their newsletters. Hey, share this with a friend. If you like the newsletter, click here to sign up. And this is really straightforward. They created a pre-written email. I'll link out to this tool that you can set up the email, you put in the subject line, you put in the body copy. Hey, this is what this is. It's called the rundown. It's primarily politics, whatever it is. Here's why it's great. Go sign up. And all they have to do is enter their friend's email address and hit send. For a lot of readers, if you say share it with a friend, they would, but they need a little bit of a nudge because, well, they have to think about why do I like this and what's good about it. And then they don't always complete the process. So if we take away all that friction, hey, we already wrote the email for you. You literally just have to type in your friend's name. Fantastic. I can hit and share this with a friend. Oh, one other way that you can do this too, um, some teams will add sign up links. Like we'll have a button like, did a friend share this newsletter with you? Click here to subscribe. And you might have that in the header or the footer too. Okay, hang on. Leah, you dropped in a comment, so we can pause here for a second. Have you ever seen newsrooms use an incentive to spark people to share? And the short answer is yes. I can't remember if I actually included an example in here. I don't think I did. Um, so in terms of driving people and encouraging people to refer a friend, usually it's something small. Like WJCT is a good example of this. They did one year or so ago where they gave away like a couple gift cards to a local gas station. They're like, if you refer the newsletter with 2 friends, yeah, maybe it was 3 friends. Um, we'll all about automatically enter you into a drawing to win this prize pack. And I've had other teams that have tried this sort of thing too. We go out to a sponsor, it's a local restaurant, it's a chain, it's whatever it is. We're gonna raffle away some sort of gift card or prize pack if you share the newsletter with friends. Now, to do this, we're gonna have to use some sort of third-party software. The one I've usually recommended to teams is called Sparkloop, and it costs like $100 a month. It's not the cheapest thing in the world, but you can utilize something like that. You figure out the giveaway. We try to incentivize people to share, and the number is usually really small, like 2 friends, refer 2 friends, and you get something. I don't usually encourage teams to do stuff like send tote bags or coffee mugs or those sorts of things, simply because one, it's a pain to ship, and two, for you all, the number of people who are going to go out of their way to refer like 10 friends to win a coffee mug is going to be relatively small. That's usually what I've seen in the past is merch is not the driver that it was before, but giveaways sometimes can be. Does that kind of answer your question?
Totally. Thanks.
The other really big thing that's out there for you all are these kind of, we'll call them like in-story CTAs. Basically, any article that someone is already reading, how do we try to incentivize them to sign up and read once they're on the page? So I'm going to start with the smaller, less intrusive ones and work my way up to slightly more intrusive kind of units. Small level. This is something you all can do literally today if you wanted that requires no tech integrations. Let's come up with a line of text or two, and we'll put them at the top or bottom of a newsletter. Top is usually a nice starting place for these. Um, you're reading a politics story today. Today it's Super Tuesday. You're gonna have a bunch of politics stuff. Your primary is over, but certainly people in New Hampshire are gonna be following what's happening. Hey, sign up for our primarily politics newsletter and keep following along throughout the 2024 elections. Sign up here, and we can link out to that MailChimp page. Good enough for now. But then we have a CTA. There's something. It's something you copy and paste into, politics stories or daily news stories or whatever it is. Not fancy, doesn't require any tech integrations, just a sentence with a link. A slightly more advanced version of something like this would be some sort of inline unit. And these typically have a little bit more copy. Sometimes there's an image, sometimes there's a background color, something to make sure that you don't just scroll past it, that as you're reading, you see, all right, there's something here that I got to stop and read. Um, you can do them in the middle of stories. For a lot of the stories, and based on the length of it, the average like NHPR story, I would say the end of story might be a better kind of example. National NPR does a really good job with these, where you'll read a story, you'll get to the end, there'll be a call to action. The other thing they do that's really smart, and that applies to all of these, is they map the sign up box to the story you're on. So this story on the left is you just read a story on politics and you're going to get a CTA for the politics newsletter. Obviously want to, we're making the assumption that if you read the story, you must be interested in the topic. So let's get that sort of call to action in front of you. They're nice, they're not too intrusive, they convert pretty well. Another option that could work for you all, you have on desktop that right rail. I think the 19th is probably my favorite example of these. Oh, Dan Hagan shared an example, so maybe I missed something. Let's see. Okay, so, oh yeah, I haven't seen those. Something like this. This is nice. All right, are you guys? Is this looks like a manual embed based on a Mailchimp form? Uh,
That is, it's Sarah Plord created. We have, I think, a couple of these, primarily Rundown and the primary politics. And we've traditionally done a lot of more inline edits because it looks better, especially it's more responsive for mobile, I think, too. Like the third or fourth graph, boom. But that's one of my issues or challenges is making it more consistent, Dan and Leah.
yeah, and this is one too where I mean I would love to see either a background color around the whole thing that's in that NHPR kind of red or a little bit more text here to give them. All right, you're getting your top stories 3 days a week, a little bit more there, and we could pull that sort of language for instance, from a survey. We could talk around some of the values. You know, you'll see a lot of sites that'll talk around like news you need to know or just in 5 minutes, but we might be able to go a little further, like what's value about this thing, local
Yeah.
news, just for folks in New Hampshire, a couple
And
days a
I
week.
can't speak for Sarah Plord, but I don't think she's exactly bowled over by that either, even though she created it. I mean, partly the MailChimp was what it was.
Here's some
My issue, I
limitations
think,
of
is
what
it
you can
looks a
do.
little, looks compared to inline, it looks a little more clunky or
Mhm.
bigger. Uh,
Yeah, this also just with the design, with how it is right now, it kind of knocks up against some of the other stuff that you have below here and might be able to, when you look at like this NPR example, there's a little more space, it stands out a little bit more. One of these, like it pops in a slightly different way. Some other stuff that's out there, right rail units. I think the 19th does a phenomenal job with these. They literally have carved out their entire right rail and they rotate through different things. It's a newsletter sign up during pledge drives, fundraising drives. They turn this into a fundraising kind of ask. They'll use it to drive survey results. They do a whole bunch of different things. Um, this is a case where they've just been really, really smart about trying to create a unit that's attractive, but that also isn't too intrusive. Um, if you're on mobile, this thing just pops down to the bottom of the page. The Hackinger report does a nice job with these two on the right rail. This is a fixed unit, but it's there as you're scrolling. It's desktop only. It's another promotional sort of unit. What you'll see as we go through these is it's a lot of little things together. We have the sign up pages and we have header and nav, and then we have something on story pages, and we're doing a bunch of little things together. Usually what I tell teams is you want to have bare minimum 5 to 10 different ways that we can get people onto an email list. If we're relying just on one or two things, we're probably missing out on a chunk of the audience. Other stuff that's out there, a little bit more intrusive, a lot more intrusive, are these sort of pop-ups that take over a screen. There's pluses and minuses here. The pluses is they can be really effective. The minuses are, if they're displayed incorrectly, they can be really intrusive and annoy readers. I typically tell teams, exclude these from certain pages, a donate page, a newsletter sign up page. We don't want to show them right on the home page, maybe only on the story pages. So that way people don't come in and see a pop up too soon. If they see it too soon, they just tend to swipe it away off the screen or X out. You can also test these based on, scroll depth. There are tools that are out there like an opt-in monster, for instance, where you can say, hey, show it at, 25% of the way down the page or 50% of the way down the page, or show it after someone's been reading a story for 15, 20 seconds. Usually what I tell teams is look at your Google Analytics data, see how long the average reader is spending on site and utilize that as a starting point to go. If the average reader spends 45 seconds, well, we'll show this at 15 or 20 seconds. If the average reader is spending 5 minutes, we have a little bit more time to show a call to action. And Dan, I'm gonna get to the toasters in a second, because I like those too. These sorts of pop-ups, you have a lot of space, you can utilize art. I usually encourage teams to have, an X and a no thank you option. And again, mapping the right story to the right kind of pop-up. These work on mobile too, which is really nice. They just have to shrink them down a little bit. Less text, fewer images. Toasters, certainly an option here. These work really nicely. They also work really nicely in particular on desktop, like this example at the top from the site in Tucson. It doesn't interfere with the reading experience at all, and it just pops up on the side, but it's still pretty visible, which is really nice. A lot of teams will use, pretty strong contrasting colors. You're scrolling down the page, these things pop up like toast from a toaster at the bottom of the screen, and they work pretty well. They're a lot less intrusive than a full screen pop-up, so often teams that are just getting started with some sort of pop-up will say like, this is a safe place for us to start. We feel pretty good that we can do this, that we can convert people, but we're not going to annoy people too much, which is a pretty big deal.
I like that. Next, it's a safe spot, safe
It's
place
a
to start.
very good starting
I
place.
agree entirely. I mean, Sarah Floyd and I, and we have pop-ups now for like the membership, and I work for this website and app, and I can't pop out of them sometimes. It's just infuriating.
Oh, there's a couple websites that I won't visit anymore because I know that if I click through their site, I'm going to get 4 or 5 different I'm going to get a newsletter pop up, and then I have to turn off the ad blocker, and then I have to accept cookies, and then I have a subscription offer, and then there's a third thing that it just keeps coming. But these are nice, really safe starting place here. Little bar at the bottom, toaster unit on the right side. Any of those can work. If we did want to be more aggressive, Jax today, another good example here. They're running something like an exit intent unit. So when you're leaving the page, you scroll up to go to your, the URL, type in a new URL. Hey, wait, before you go, sign up for our newsletter. And very little reason to, be cautious here because they're already leaving the page. We might as well give them an ask and say, hey, make sure you sign up for the newsletter. So I do like these two as you can use a toaster, but also maybe something like an exit intent unit to wait before you go, make sure you're getting, all the important New Hampshire stories you need in your inbox, sign up for the rundown. The one other thing that's out there that's a little more intrusive are these banners. These work really nicely for, quick one-off sorts of promos. Like for instance, if you all said, hey, we're going to have an expanded edition of like a Super Tuesday newsletter tomorrow, today you would be running a newsletter, a primarily politics promotion. Hey, Super Tuesdays today, get all of our, recaps, coverage, analysis tomorrow in our politics newsletter. Sign up now. Run that for a day. A lot of teams will repurpose their breaking news bar and utilize this as a ask to sign up for a newsletter instead, which is nice. You can utilize that existing tech just in a different way. One last thing with these before we talk about other opportunities. With the more intrusive units, the pop-ups, the toasters, the banners, the exit intent units, as a team, it's worth having a conversation around where you want to set the rules. Because for most teams, there's a hesitation around doing these, not because they don't work, but because we don't want to annoy readers. We don't want to piss people off. But it's possible to set these up in a way that they convert and they're not too annoying. We need them to be a little bit annoying because they have to get in front of people. They have to be visible enough that you see them and notice them. But we're not trying to make it so that you never want to come back to the site. Typically, there's a conversation around how aggressive do we want to be? Do we want to show it after a certain amount of time on site, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or maybe after you've read a certain story, number of stories. Hey, you've been on our site, you've read at least 2 stories. On that second story, that's what will show the pop-up. You already read one thing, you went through a recirculation unit, you're reading a second thing. We're going to ask now because you've been reading a lot on our website. Great. We could do it based on time on site, a percentage of the way down the page. We could change these based on entry source if we wanted to. We definitely want to adjust based on mobile or desktop. Desktop units tend to be a little bit bigger. Mobile units do tend to be a little bit more condensed. But the most important thing to me is that, you're having these conversations around, what are we creating in terms of a reader experience? Is it a good reader experience? They still like reading our site, because if they don't like reading our website, if we're annoying them, it doesn't matter how effective the conversion unit is, they're probably not going to come back. So before we go any further, that's the big stuff where I see like really significant opportunities for you all. The stuff that I would focus on: header, nav, different sort of story page units, forward to a friend, all things that I think are things that you all can execute on relatively quickly and that are going to make a big difference. Before we go any further into some of the other opportunities, Any questions on any of that so far?
No, I don't. I think, I was actually reading a lot of your newsletters earlier before this meeting, and um, I feel like I've been having Dan Oshinsky in the voice in my head, which is a good thing actually. No, I know some of and I mentioned this to Leah and Zoe before too. It's just like some of these things, like just being more consistent using them, like the inline prompts, so on and so forth. We have used the site-wide news alert top of the website, um, for breaking news, which I think was originally designed for, and newsletter prompts. Membership has basically taken it over the past year or two. That's something we could try after this fund drive or between fund drives.
Yeah. A lot of the public media outlets that I've worked with in nonprofit newsrooms, they'll have a couple different CTAs they're using. Hey, we're going to use these pop-ups or toasters, but then it's the end of the year fundraising drive. It's our spring fundraiser. Fantastic. Like we're going to swap some of those newsletter messages out or podcast promos out. We're going to swap in, messages to get people to donate and give. Uh, Also, a lot of these things that apply to newsletters apply to the other products that you have out there as well. So like these can work to promote events. These can work to promote podcasts. And so the more that you all start to create these spaces, we're going to use this sort of thing to promote newsletters. We're going to have an inline unit at the bottom. That's great. Even better is if we're going to have an inline unit that can promote newsletters, but we can also rotate in podcast promotion whenever necessary. Or we have a toaster unit that we can use in 2 or 3 different ways. When we have events, we can swap in the event promo there to try to drive ticket sales. So what I found for the teams that do this best, when you start to look through these, I'm talking about newsletters here, but if you think about them in terms of the bigger picture, how they can be utilized across the team, um, and across the organization, there's so many opportunities here. And the more you think about the big picture, the easier it is to get resources. So it's not just a newsletter ask. We're going to create these new toaster units. And we're going to try with newsletters. And if it works well, we want to be able to add in promotion for other things because everybody at the NHPR should be able to benefit from these if we do well. And we should be able to push people towards a lot of different products that are going to deepen their engagement. And hopefully at the end of the day, all this stuff exists because we want people to be engaged. We want them to be informed. We want them to support NHPR. So we can utilize these in a lot of different ways. A couple other things that are out there that are opportunities for y'all. So this stuff before is the stuff that I think you got to prioritize, stuff that I want to see you all try first. Next on the list are some things where there are definitely opportunities for growth. These are all these, I'm only listing them as a secondary kind of thing because I want you all to prioritize header, nav, story page, because I think that's where the biggest impact is. This is what kind of comes next. One are what I would call like the +1 messages. You're on a newsletter list. Can we get you to sign up for one more thing? We actually have on the Inbox Collective website tomorrow, there'll be an entire story from the Toronto Star team about how they use these sorts of messages, and they're getting 3, 5, sometimes 10,000 people to sign up for newsletters via like one-off messages like these. Hey, you're on our politics list, but you're not on the rundown. We're going to send you an email and say, we think you should sign up. We think you should check this sort of thing out. We could do promotion within existing newsletters. Hey, here's a couple other things that we have that we think might be great for you. Same thing as I mentioned earlier about podcast, newsletter, all the different things you all do. No reason why it couldn't be just a recommended for you thing where we're going to promote some content that's audio. We can promote some stuff that's on the website. We can promote some stuff that's newsletter. No reason you couldn't utilize those kind of house ad slots in different ways. Some teams will just build actual ads. They'll run within the newsletter. Hey, we have this thing. We think you'll love it. Click here, go to our sign up page and sign up. Relatively simple to do and allows you to insert an ad that, this certainly, if I'm reading through a list of story, a lot of text, and then you get this bright red call to action to sign up, that's going to stand out. Other stuff that's on the list. User-generated content. So basically any place that you all are asking for an email address, a letter to the editor. I love how some teams, the team at Boulder Reporting Lab, they did a citizens agenda style thing last year where it was the first ever mayoral election in Boulder. The mayor up until last year had always been appointed by the city council. This was the first direct election of a mayor. And so they did a whole thing. Hey, we want you to submit your questions. What do you want us to be asking candidates for mayor this year? And they got a ton of responses. And there at the bottom of the form was, you already gave us your email, you answered a bunch of stuff. Do you want to sign up for our newsletter too? So any forms that we have where someone is entering their email address, we should think about asking them to sign up for our newsletter, check the box and sign up too. You can also ask people to vote on stuff. Got a bunch of teams have success with this. This team that I work with in the Berkshires, the Berkshire Eagle, has had amazing success with this. They'll do these regular, really simple best of kind of voting sorts of things. Best ice cream sundae, best pizza. They just did best chicken wings for the Super Bowl, and they'll get a couple hundred people to vote on these, and they always drive as part of it, hey, do you want to sign up for the newsletter? They also drive a bunch of newsletter signups. Plus, the content then becomes articles that they promote, and the articles have calls to action to sign up for newsletters, so they just get a lot out of these. They're pretty simple to execute on, and people do like to vote on these. Auto registration, this is something to have a conversation around in terms of post-donation flow. Do we want to either, one, automatically add new donors to a newsletter list? Some teams do choose to do this. Two, do we want to offer a box to sign up for a newsletter on that donation form? You're going through the process, you're donating to us, you're becoming a sustainer, that's phenomenal. Do you want to sign up for a newsletter? Check the box and we'll add you to that list too as part of the process. We already have your email address, no reason we can't ask for a little bit more. In terms of house ads, a couple opportunities here. Some teams will promote these on their website. Some will promote other newsletters within the newsletter, like I shared earlier, the kind of intra-newsletter promotion. A lot of opportunities here for different, art, design, messaging. The other thing that I used to do back in the day at BuzzFeed, and the Washington Post has just started doing this, and I love, are just saying we have these various recirculation units on the website. Let's create some stories that we can promote our newsletters in within those units. So, you're reading this list of, here's some more stuff for you to check out. And they have their call to action, get through the 2024 election noise, cut through the noise, get our campaign moment newsletter. Great. They're just saying, where are the spaces that we have, what are the spaces that we have ownership over, where we can promote stuff? How do we get the right things in front of people there? I'm not going to tell you to spend too much time on social media. It looks like you guys already, you're using the link in bio. We want to make sure when we update any sign up pages that we update those as well. I'll mention there's some stuff like, Instagram link stickers and stories still do okay. I like how New York Magazine does these. They'll sometimes take some screenshots of part of the newsletter and give you a link to sign up. I'm not going to tell you to invest a ton of time here. Social media seems to be less and less effective at driving people to newsletters literally every week, but there may be some small opportunities. A few other things. Giveaways and sweepstakes. There may be opportunities here. I see this in particular in like the local magazine space. A lot of teams that are doing these. There's some sort of giveaways, enter to win the giveaway. You can sign up for a newsletter as part of the process. Actually, you know what? Yeah, you had asked earlier around the giveaway thing. I did have the slide here. This is the Jacks Today example with the giveaway with the referral program. So if a couple of your friends, it was 3, if 3 of your friends sign up, you'll be entered to win one of these, gift cards. Great. And so trying to incentivize as many people as possible to share. And as long as we keep the barrier to entry low, it's refer 2 friends, refer 3 friends. It is a nice way to try to incentivize people to share this thing with a few different friends. There are definitely opportunities around in real life promotion. I think a lot of teams get stuck thinking like we have to you've got to optimize the website, we've got to spend money in other places. But I like when teams get creative with these sorts of things. This is the Charlotte Ledger. Hey, people are going to vote. QR code, go to our newsletter, go to our landing page. You'll see the stories you've written, call to action to sign up for the newsletter. It's the team I work with in New York City. Farmers market. We're going to have people there. We're going to have a sign. You can scan something and sign up for our newsletter. Signs around the neighborhood. Bulletin boards at local businesses. Again, QR codes are your friend here. Small things. Are these going to drive tons and tons of signups? The answer is no, but they will drive some, and it takes a lot of little things to drive growth. Even stuff with local businesses. This is a team that I worked with down in Florida. They're a food newsletter, so they went to a bunch of restaurants that they have a friendly relationship with and said, can we make some QR codes, put them on a coaster, and you can give them to people while they're sitting at the bar. You know, I'm at the bar, I'm waiting for my friend to show up. I'm just looking at my phone anyway. I literally already have it out, and I'm looking at the QR code. Can just go and be like, let's scan that and see if I can sign up. The one thing here is we do want to try to maybe create some unique landing pages for those so we can see like here's how much traffic came to those, how many signups we got. Events. People are signing up for events. Let's add a newsletter sign up option. This is a nice one from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. At the actual events too. I've had teams that have had QR codes on screens. I've had teams that have passed around clipboards, somebody at the desk when they're checking in. Do you want to sign up for the newsletter? If they're there and they're engaged, we should ask. Quizzes. I know you all are already using news games, so I figured I'd mention it. Take the quiz at the end. Do you want to sign up for the newsletter? Drive someone elsewhere. Lead magnets. This is LAist. This is really cool. They have all these different, restaurant reviews and recommendations that exist on the website. Let's roll all of them into an ebook that we make available for free. We're just repackaging the content, and then a pop-up, hey, do you want to get access to this guide? Enter your email address, you'll get the guide, we'll sign you up for our food newsletter. The last kind of piece here is paid acquisition. And I do think any organization, big or small, should be doing some level of paid acquisition. The challenge is just making sure that you're thinking about how much to spend, whatever your customer acquisition cost should be. For most publications like yours, I'm seeing teams are spending $1, $2, sometimes a little more to acquire an email address, a reader who's actually going to read. The more you're spending, so there are teams that'll spend more than this. It's usually tied to some sort of like B2B or really specialized sort of product. For you all, ideally $1, $1.50, $2, maybe at most, would be the range that I feel comfortable with you all spending some money on. A few different opportunities here. There are straight up kind of lead ads like these. It's usually some sort of straightforward call to action. We have this newsletter. Here's what you get. You see the product. I like how both of these, QED and BEZ, are utilizing the art in a really smart way to really give you a bigger call to action. Click the link and you sign up right there on Facebook with a single click. We can also use a tool like Zapier to connect the dots. So someone signs up via Facebook and then it automatically gets added into MailChimp. The one channel that I really don't recommend that teams utilize is LinkedIn. It's just too expensive, but these other ones, Facebook, Instagram, Google, can be valuable. I'll also give a shout out to Facebook. They do have this great thing, the Facebook ad library, which I linked in here, where if you're looking to stalk what other brands are doing, like here's what BEZ is running right now, you can see they're running a few different versions of this ad. Right now they're running a video-based ad. Some are taller and skinnier. This looks like this was built for Instagram. This was built for Facebook. You can see like, all right, what are our peers and what are people that we respect doing? I find it's a really good place to get ideas for templates and design. I really like utilizing that as a kind of a source of inspiration. Some examples that I've seen recently that work in terms of formats, this sort of like simple image with a little bit of text is really effective, super simple. It comes across your feed and there's not too much going on. It's just like, here's what this thing is and why it'd be valuable, sign up. This sort of language too would also work nicely on a lot of the pop-ups or sign up forms that we have on the website. The other thing that I've seen a lot of teams try are these carousels, where they'll say like, here's a couple examples of the types of stories you're gonna get in your inbox. Sign up for our newsletter and you'll get this sort of thing in your inbox on a regular basis. We could also try content to capture, which is where you see a piece of content, it's gated, they're on Facebook. Hey, do you want to get access to this content? First sign up for the newsletter. So it's basically like a little bit of a registration wall with an ad. The key is just to make sure there's some sort of connection. Like if you're going to see a piece of content like this, you should know that when you sign up for the newsletter, you'll get more stuff like this in your inbox. Okay, last piece is, and then any questions you have, I'm eager and happy to answer. On top of sharing all the slides, I've just over the years, kind of like we do with the welcome emails, I've just been compiling lots and lots and lots of examples of these. So if you all are going through and you're like, we want more examples of different sorts of like, sign up boxes at the bottom of stories, great. I have a bunch of different examples that you can look at and borrow from and steal from. And for basically any of these things that are in here, all right, pop-ups, great. Lots of different examples of it here that we can look at and learn from. So by all means, utilize that as a source of inspiration. There's lots of stuff on here, but imagine as you look through these, you may go like, oh, this is cool. I wonder if we could try something like this. Okay, that was a lot. What else can I answer here?
Regarding toasters and other pop-ups, I know again that we have some already that we're using for membership primarily. I know some of your clients also are NPR affiliates with Grove websites. Are there any tactics that work well in your experience with Grove that you should try first?
Yeah, I mean, the stuff that I mentioned, the reason I organized the slides the way, like the on-site stuff, the pop-ups or toasters, I would encourage you all to pick from those examples. Header and footer, I think, are a must. We should update the sign-up pages because there needs to be a little bit more context there to say, hey, you all are doing good work with the newsletters. There's a lot of good stuff going in these. But a reader who clicks through and just sees a thing that says the rundown isn't going to have enough context to know, like, what is the rundown? How often is it? Is it once a week? Is it 7 days a week? What am I getting here? Like, we should have a little bit more to tell them why this is valuable. And then something in that on story kind of format. And it could be a toaster, it could be an inline unit, it could be something at the bottom of stories, it could be the right rail. We should have something on story pages that drives people towards a sign up. Ideally, we'd have multiple things. We'd have, a right rail unit, and we'd have an exit intent unit, something like that, that combines. For you all, Dan, you mentioned like the toaster seemed interesting. It is a good low risk place to start. And like that would be a really good first, one-off thing for you all to try. Some of this will come down to the tools that you all want to use. I'm not sure if there's tools that you are already using that you want to deploy, or if we'd have to look at a third-party thing like an opt-in monster to say, okay, this is something we want to use to deploy these sorts of pop-ups. What else? I'm sure there's more questions.
Hey Dan, this is, can you guys hear me while I'm driving?
Yeah.
This is a question for us, I think, to ponder as a group, like how to take things from here. And I'd love your suggestion on how do we make a work plan to start to tackle some of these and prioritize them and start to chip away at them one by one.
Yeah, part of the reason that I mentioned this is, in terms of the tiers, there's some stuff at the start. All right, we can add something to the footer. Okay, that's the nice thing about that is it's a one-off. Like, we're going to promote the rundown. We're going to put it in the footer of the site. Once it's there, it's done. We don't have to worry about it. Let's move on to the next thing on the list. For you all, hopefully this is something that whether it's like a little bit of a growth sprint, we're going to make an effort to say these are the 3 things on the list that we're going to prioritize, and we're going to try to deploy them in the next couple of weeks, set a deadline, or whether there's some stages of this, we're going to start with, updating the pages and getting the language right. Then once we have the language, then we can utilize that language on a toaster unit that we deploy. Great. some of it comes down to you all to decide, how do you all want to proceed as a team? But hopefully you can pick a couple of these at the start and go, these 2 things, we can get that done in, March and April. All right, we're gonna do that, then we're gonna move on to the next thing on the list.
That's awesome. Thanks. I am just pulling into my doctor's appointment, so I'm going to sign off. But I feel like that's a really key question, Dan Tui and Zoe, for you guys to take up with support from all the rest of us, for sure. But to be continued. Lots of inspiring ideas here.
All right, for the rest of the team, what else can I answer?
Yeah, I had, when we had our conversation about the data flow, we had talked about one of the recommendations that you'd put in this slide packet was people donating to opt into newsletters. And we had talked about the idea of, just because of how our data flows, that being really challenging, and having language more around the fact, like, you will be opted into newsletters, and kind of like, feel free to opt out. And I was wondering if you could just, I think it'd be helpful for this group to hear kind of how we might do that, rather than that checkbox that I think we'd have a hard time honoring.
So an example, something like this would be, oh shoot, I'm logged in, hang on. Let me log out, there we go. This is the Anchorage Daily News. Something they did, you'll see here on all these different forms when people are going to donate or going to subscribe, part of your subscription, unlimited access to all our content, our e-edition, get our daily newsletter with the stories and topics that matter most. Like, it's included as just, it's a feature of your subscription. And other teams on donation pages will say, like, when you sign up for the news, when you make a donation, what are you going to get? You support our work, you get this tote bag, we'll add you to our newsletter list. And so that's certainly an option. The most important things are, one, we should be upfront with it. Here's what's going to happen. When you give, you're going to get added to a newsletter. Which newsletter? Is it the rundown? Is it something else? And we should offer some sort of, in a welcome email after they donate, should remind them, thanks for supporting the work. Also, here's what you're going to start getting from us. You're going to start getting the rundown. Here's what it is. And if you ever want to change your preferences, go here to update to make sure you get the stuff that you want. So it's certainly an option that's on the table for you all. It's something that a lot of teams will do. We just have to be really clear about, here's exactly what you're going to get, and we offer them a clear opt-out. If there isn't, instead of an opt-in, there is a clear opt-out at somewhere along the line.
That makes a lot of sense. I think I'm thinking about how, I don't want perfection to be the enemy of progress. So it's like, if this is where we can start, because right now we're not doing a ton to move donors into the, MailChimp area at all. So if we're able to iterate on this, and this is where we could start, I think that might be a helpful way to get some list growth.
Yeah, and I'll mention something like, just to stay on the Anchorage theme, like, I've worked with the Anchorage team for a while. This was something they rolled out last year, the auto enrollment. But as part of it, not everyone in the past had been on their newsletter list. So we started sending messages like these to their existing paying subscribers. We're like, you're not on our daily newsletter. We think you should be. Click here and opt into the newsletter. And so this could also be a thing as a starting point where we go, Lisa and team, okay, we're going to send a couple of emails to our existing, sustainer base and say, we'd love you to be on our daily newsletter. We'd love you to get the rundown. We'd love you to sign up for Primarily Politics, whatever it is. Go here and sign up. And just send some dedicated messages just to those existing folks and see if we can use that to push some people over to our newsletters.
That makes sense.
All right, I think we have time for like one more, if there's one more out there. What I'm going to do afterwards, I'm going to share the slides. As part of the slides, at the end is the link to all the different, the big library of more examples for you all to look into. You have questions around other stuff too, like tech. I think we're going to use a third-party tool to run pop-ups. Email me, I'll make recommendations. Happy to share some stuff that's worked for other teams. I know there's a lot of slides there for today, so hopefully as you guys get to go through it later and think on it a little bit, you'll go like, all right, I see where we're going. I think we got this is our priority list.
I think it's great, Dan. Yeah, and as we mentioned, there's some things that we've never even tried before. We've done some giveaways for manually for boosting subscriptions to the Weekender, for example. Giving away like ski tickets, for example, which worked out well. But there's other things we haven't even thought of, and there's other things, as I mentioned, that we have done, and some that we do, just we don't do it consistently. Some of that's because we don't really have a digital editor at the moment.
Yeah.
I am a digital editor, as is 3 or 4 other people in the newsroom, but not like you've heard this on the station, I'm sure. And it's just a matter of like doing it consistently.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some content is shared with other news partners, so it's one of those things where like it's not every story gets a sign up prompt, and nor should it necessarily,
Yeah.
depending on
And
what the story is.
yeah, for you all, hopefully some of these things like the stuff at the top of the slides, that stuff that's foundational elements that should help grow the list over time. And then as you go through the list, you go, all right, well, we want to do some more, dedicated messages to promote our newsletters. We're gonna think about how donors can become newsletter subscribers. We're gonna spend a little bit of money on some channels to grow our email list. Okay, we're gonna try a couple of these things and see what happens. And the fun part is there's lots to try, the things that work we double down on and we do more of. And the things that don't, we say, okay, well, we tried doing those, user generated, we tried user generated content. We asked as part of like, are you submitting a tip or idea to us? We just didn't see a lot of return there. We're not going to make that an area of focus. Let's move on to the next thing, whatever it is. So lots of opportunities here to play around with. I'll show the
Yeah, and
slides.
some
Yeah.
low hanging fruit that's like right there too. That was like, oh yeah, I never thought of that.
Thanks for being game to go through a lot of stuff. I know sitting through big slide presentations is not the normal thing for these calls, but lots to share, and you all are in a place where the good news is there's plenty still to implement, plenty to try. So excited to see to keep the conversation going on this. Lots to do and plenty to execute on. All right, thanks everybody. Talk to
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye.